The great council chamber of Nexus Prime stretched wide like an ancient cathedral, but instead of stone, it was built from materials that caught starlight and held it. Representatives from 47 different species sat in their designated places, their forms ranging from the massive crystalline traders to the tiny floating whispers that glowed like fireflies in the dimmed atmosphere. Ambassador Krelvoth of the Zenthari leaned forward in his seat, his forearms folded in the gesture his people used for deep thought. His silver skin reflected the holographic star maps that floated in the center of the chamber. The map showed a vast section of unexplored space, colored in inviting green to indicate it was unclaimed territory. "The proposal is simple," Commander Thex announced, his voice booming through the chamber. The Korvax warrior stood nearly 3 meters tall, covered in dark scales that clinked like armor when he moved. Sector 7 Gamma contains 17 systems with habitable worlds. No one has claimed them. We should expand there before someone else does. Several council members made sounds of agreement. Resources were always needed. New worlds meant new opportunities for trade and settlement. But then a voice rose from the shadows at the back of the chamber, old and careful like wind through ancient caves. "Perhaps we should consult the archives before making this decision." High Archiver Saratha slithered forward on her long serpentine body. Her scales were pale with age, and her eyes held the weight of centuries of knowledge. She carried a data tablet that looked fragile in her coils. "The archives?" Commander Thex made a dismissive gesture. "Old stories and dust. What could they possibly tell us about empty space?" "That space may not be as empty as we believe," Saratha replied. She activated her tablet, and new information appeared on the central display. "There are old records, very old, from before many of our species achieved spaceflight. They mention a region we should not enter. They speak of Terra." A ripple of confusion went through the chamber. Most had never heard that word before. "Terra is a myth," said one of the traders, its crystalline form chiming with skepticism. "A story used to frighten children into behaving well." "I have heard these stories too," Krelvoth said slowly. He had always been interested in ancient history, even the parts dismissed as legend. "They speak of an impossible species from a death world. Beings who refuse to die, who bond with anything they meet, who turn every disaster into an advantage." Saratha nodded her great head. "Yes, the stories say these humans survived on a world that tried constantly to kill them. They hunted creatures 10 times their size. They survived ice ages and plagues. They tamed fire and built cities on fault lines. They made companions of predators. And according to some fragments, they developed space travel but then went silent." "Exactly," Commander Thex said with satisfaction. "Silent, they don't exist. These stories are just cultural contamination, tales that spread from one pre-spaceflight civilization to another before we made contact." "Nothing more." Many council members murmured agreement. The galaxy was vast and had been explored for thousands of years. If these humans existed, they would have been found by now. But Krelvoth was not so certain. "What else do the records say, Archiver?" Saratha's eyes gleamed. "They are fragmentary and contradictory. Some describe humans as small and weak. Others say they are strong beyond reason. Some say they are peaceful. Others say they are the most dangerous warriors imaginable. There are images, very poor quality, showing bipedal creatures with forward-facing eyes and exposed skin. No fur, no scales, no natural armor. And yet the stories insist these vulnerable beings conquered their world. Myths built on myths," scoffed one of the smaller delegates. "We cannot let ancient superstitions guide policy." The vote was called. Overwhelmingly, the council decided to expand into Sector 7 Gamma. Only Krelvoth and a handful of others abstained, unwilling to vote for or against something that made them uneasy in ways they could not explain. After the session ended, Krelvoth returned to his private chambers. Sleep would not come easily, so he accessed the archives himself, pulling up every fragment related to Terra and its mythical inhabitants. The images were terrible quality, degraded by time and multiple copying. Shapes that might have been bipedal creatures, blurred faces with eyes that looked straight forward, the mark of a predator, buildings that seemed too simple, yet stood on worlds that should have killed any visitors. The contradictions bothered him most. One fragment described humans as having weak bodies that broke easily. Another described them running for hours without rest, their bodies cooling themselves through leaking water. One said they were pack hunters who moved in coordinated groups, Another said they were individualistic to the point of chaos, yet somehow still worked together when needed. One fragment caught his attention. It was a translation of a translation, barely readable, supposedly from a species that had gone extinct 2,000 years ago. It read, "We thought them prey because they looked soft. We thought them stupid because they seemed to welcome us. We did not understand until too late that humans do not give up. They do not surrender. They learn, they adapt, and they never stop coming. If you meet them, do not make them your enemy. Better yet, do not meet them at all." Krelvoth felt a chill run through his body despite the comfortable temperature of his room. He told himself it was foolish. These were just stories. His communication panel chimed. It was the night coordinator from Central Monitoring, a junior officer who sounded nervous. "Ambassador Krelvoth, I apologize for the late contact, but there is something strange on the long-range sensors. Multiple energy signatures emerging from FTL travel at the edge of Sector 7 Gamma. The readings are unusual." "Very unusual." Krelvoth sat up straight. "How many signatures?" There was a pause as the coordinator checked. When he spoke again, his voice was higher with stress. 47 vessels, sir. All large, all using some kind of propulsion system we do not recognize. And sir, they came from the direction of the empty zone, the region where, according to the myths, Terra was supposed to be located. For a moment, Krelvoth could not speak. Around him, his comfortable chamber suddenly felt very small and very far from home. On his screen, the blurred, ancient images of forward-facing eyes seemed to stare at him across centuries. "Send the readings to Commander Thex immediately," he finally said. "And to High Archiver Saratha. Tell them the myths may have been warnings after all." As he closed the communication, Krelvoth looked again at the star maps. At Sector 7 Gamma, where the Council had just voted to expand. Somewhere in that darkness, 47 unknown ships were moving with purpose. The humans, if that was what they were, had not been silent. They had been watching and waiting. And now they had decided to reveal themselves. The age of myths was ending. Krelvoth was not sure if the age that followed would be better or worse. Station Administrator Plesk had worked at Outpost Zeta 9 for 12 years without incident. The frontier station was boring, which was exactly how Plesk liked it. His four eyes scanned the usual sensor readings while his tentacles sorted through routine supply requisitions. Another peaceful day at the edge of explored space. Then every alarm in the station began screaming at once. Plesk's tentacles flailed in panic as he tried to read the sensor displays. The numbers made no sense. 47 massive objects had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel, less than 2 light minutes from the station. His equipment insisted they were warships, but the energy signatures were all wrong. Cleaner, more efficient, using technology that did not match anything in the Council's databases. Emergency broadcast. Plesk shouted at his communication officer. "Send to Nexus Prime immediately. Unknown fleet, possible hostile contact." Through the station's external cameras, Plesk could see them now. Ships that looked different from anything he had ever seen. They were sleek but not fragile, powerful but not crude. Their hulls bore markings in a writing system that was completely unfamiliar. And they were huge. The smallest was the size of a Council cruiser. The largest was bigger than anything except the Council's rare dreadnoughts. Plesk's communications panel lit up with an incoming transmission. He stared at it, one tentacle hovering over the acceptance key. What if they were hostile? What if opening communications invited attack? But what choice did he have? He accepted the transmission. The face that appeared on his screen made Plesk's breathing sacs freeze. It was a face from the myths, forward-facing eyes and a flat face, exposed skin in a shade of brown, hair growing from the top of the head in dark curls, lips that could smile, which this one did warmly. "Greetings, Outpost Zeta 9, the being said. I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earthship Indomitable, flagship of humanity's first contact fleet. We come in peace and friendship. We apologize for arriving unannounced, but we wanted to make sure we had your attention." Plesk's translator worked perfectly, but his mind struggled to process the words. Humanity. Earth. The myths were real. You are human? Plesk managed to say. Captain Vasquez's smile widened. "We are, and we have been waiting a very long time to say hello properly. We are broadcasting this message in 217 languages that we have learned from monitoring your public transmissions over the past 80 years. We believe we understand your cultures well enough now to begin formal diplomatic relations. 80 years. They had been watching for 80 years. Learning languages, studying cultures, preparing. Why? Plesk asked, though he was not sure it was his place to ask such questions. Why wait so long? The human captain's expression became more serious. Because first contact is too important to rush. We wanted to understand who you were before we introduced ourselves. We wanted to know if we would be welcome or feared. And we needed to be strong enough that you would take us seriously, but not so aggressive that you would see us as a threat. On Plesk's tactical display, more information was coming in about the human fleet. His officer with military training was studying the data with increasing alarm. Administrator, she whispered urgently. Their weapon systems are active but not locked on us. And sir, those ships could destroy this station and everything within 3 light hours in less than 10 minutes. The power readings are incredible. Plesk felt faint. Captain Vasquez, he said carefully. You say you come in peace? We do, the human replied. We would like to request permission to send a diplomatic team to your station to begin negotiations with the Galactic Council. We have prepared gifts of technology, culture, and knowledge to share. We hope to become members of the galactic community. Members, Plesk repeated. He looked at the fleet on his displays. Members did not arrive with 47 warships. As if reading his thoughts, Captain Vasquez said, We brought our fleet because we learned from studying your history that strength earns respect in council chambers. We wanted you to know that humanity can defend itself and its friends. We are not asking for charity or protection. We are proposing an alliance of equals. The communication panel showed another incoming transmission, this one from Nexus Prime. Plesk split his screen. Ambassador Krelvoth appeared, and from his expression he had already heard the news. Captain Vasquez, Krelvoth said, I am Ambassador Krelvoth of the Zenthari. I speak with the authority of the Galactic Council. Your arrival has caused considerable alarm. The Council requests that you explain your intentions. The human captain nodded respectfully. Ambassador, humanity achieved faster than light travel 83 years ago. Since then, we have established colonies in 30 star systems. Our population across all worlds exceeds 50 billion individuals. We have watched your broadcasts, studied your laws, and prepared ourselves to join the galactic community as responsible partners. We did not announce ourselves earlier because we wanted to be certain we could contribute meaningfully. We are ready now, 30 systems. 50 billion! These numbers hit Plesk like physical blows. The humans had built an empire while watching from the shadows. You have been spying on us, Krelvoth said. It was not a question. We have been learning about you, Captain Vasquez corrected gently. Just as I am certain your intelligence services are scanning our ships right now, analyzing our technology, and calculating our capabilities. The difference is that we admit it. We have no desire to deceive you. We know about your political factions. We know about your trade disputes. We know about the Korvax military reforms and the Zenthari cultural renaissance. We know these things because we have been preparing to meet you as informed friends, not ignorant strangers. On another screen, Plesk saw tactical data updating. A junior officer named Lieutenant Marcus Chen appeared in a smaller window beside Captain Vasquez. The young human male looked excited. Captain, Chen said, we are being scanned by 17 different sensor systems. All the nearby ships are trying to analyze our hull composition and weapons. Should we raise shields? No, Captain Vasquez said calmly. Let them look. We have nothing to hide. They will find that our ships are well made but not impossibly advanced. We are strong but not invincible. We want them to see that we respect the balance of power. Krelvoth's expression was difficult to read, but Plesk thought he detected respect in the ambassador's voice. You play this game well, Captain, very well. You arrive with overwhelming force but posture yourself as humble petitioners. You admit to surveillance but frame it as friendship. You demonstrate power while speaking of peace. We learned from the best, Captain Vasquez replied. We studied how every council species conducts diplomacy. We are not trying to trick you, Ambassador. We are trying to speak your language. All of your languages. There was a long pause. Plesk held his breath, wondering what would happen next. Would the council order the station to fire on the humans? Would the humans attack first? Was this the beginning of a war? Finally, Krelvoth spoke. Very well, Captain Vasquez. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I accept your request for diplomatic negotiations. I will personally lead a delegation to your flagship. Station Administrator Plesk will coordinate the arrangements. We would be honored to host you, Ambassador, Captain Vasquez said. Fair warning. Our ship's artificial gravity is set to Earth standard, which is approximately 1.2 times your standard. The oxygen content of our atmosphere may be intoxicating to some species. We will of course provide environmental suits if needed. Plesk began making arrangements, his tentacles moving automatically through familiar procedures even as his mind reeled. The myths were true. Humans were real, and they had just announced themselves to the galaxy, with a fleet powerful enough to conquer but diplomatic enough to negotiate. As the transmission ended, Plesk looked out at the human ships hanging in space like sleeping predators. They were beautiful in a way that made him deeply nervous. They looked like they were built for war but painted for peace. The galaxy had just changed forever, and Plesk had witnessed it from his boring frontier station. He was not sure if he should feel honored or terrified, perhaps both. Ambassador Krelvoth stepped through the airlock onto the human ship and immediately felt the difference. The gravity pulled at him harder than he was used to, making his movements feel sluggish. Around him, the other delegates from various species adjusted to the increased weight with varying degrees of success. Commander Thex, with his heavy frame, seemed barely affected. High Archiver Sizratha coiled her body more tightly to distribute her weight, but the human crew members who greeted them moved as if the gravity was nothing at all. They walked with easy confidence, their bipedal strides smooth and efficient. Captain Vasquez extended her hand in the human greeting gesture, and Krelvoth carefully touched it with one of his own hands. "Welcome aboard the Indomitable," she said warmly. "We are honored to host the first official diplomatic contact between our peoples. Please follow me to the observation deck. We have prepared presentations about Earth and humanity." As they walked through the corridors, Krelvoth noticed details that seemed strange. There were stairs between some sections instead of ramps or lifts. The doors operated manually if the automatic systems failed, with handles that required physical strength to use. Everything was built with backups and redundancy. "Your ship is very physical," Commander Thex observed, running one clawed hand along the textured wall. Most species designed for efficiency and ease of use. A human crew member nearby, a woman with the name tag Chief Engineer Rodriguez, overheard and smiled. "We design for reliability. If the power fails, we can still move through the ship. If the computers crash, we can still operate essential systems manually. It is part of our philosophy. Never depend entirely on technology when muscle and determination can work instead." They entered a large observation deck where a holographic system was set up. But what caught everyone's attention was the view through the transparent walls. Earth hung in the projection, a blue and white marble rotating slowly. "Our homeworld," Captain Vasquez said with unmistakable pride. "Terra, as some old records name it. Earth, as we call it. A Class 9 death world by your classification system." A new voice spoke as a woman with dark skin and kind eyes stepped forward. "I am Dr. Amara Okonkwo, xenobiologist and cultural liaison. I will be explaining what it means to come from Earth." The hologram shifted to show Earth statistics. Krelvoth's translator needed a moment to convert the numbers into familiar terms, and when it did, he felt a chill. Gravity at 1.0 g, which was indeed 1.2 times the standard most species preferred. Atmospheric oxygen at 21%, which was high enough to be mildly toxic to prolonged exposure for several species. Temperature variations that swung wildly between extremes. Tectonic activity that regularly destroyed entire regions. Weather patterns that included hurricanes, tornadoes, and monsoons. "Your world is constantly trying to kill you," High Archiver Esratha said softly. "Yes," Dr. Okonkwo agreed simply, "and we have lived there for 300,000 years. We did not just survive it, we thrived in it. Let me show you our history." The hologram began displaying scenes from Earth's past. Humans wearing animal skins, hunting creatures that dwarfed them in size. Humans surviving ice ages that buried entire continents in glaciers. Humans building cities on fault lines next to volcanoes in areas regularly hit by massive storms. "We are not the strongest species on our planet," Dr. Okonkwo explained. "We are not the fastest or the largest. We do not have claws or armor or venom, but we have something else. We have endurance. We have adaptability, and we have stubbornness that borders on insanity." The hologram showed humans running, not sprinting, but running for hours across vast distances, following prey until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. It showed humans surviving in deserts where temperatures could kill in hours. It showed humans living in frozen wastelands where the cold would freeze most species solid. How? Asked one of the smaller delegates. How do you survive these conditions? We sweat, said a human security officer, a woman named Yuki Tanaka who stood nearby. She was shorter than Captain Vasquez, but carried herself with obvious physical confidence. Our bodies leak water through our skin to cool us down. It means we can run in heat that would kill most predators. We also shiver to generate heat in cold, and our immune systems fight off diseases constantly, which makes us very resistant to biological threats. She smiled, but there was something predatory in it. Let me demonstrate something. Captain, may I? Captain Vasquez nodded. Chief Tanaka walked to a section of the deck where exercise equipment was stored. She picked up a metal bar that, according to the display, weighed 80 kilograms. She lifted it over her head with a grunt of effort but clear capability. This is not exceptional for a human, she said, lowering the weight. Most adult humans can carry significant loads. We evolved to throw spears, to carry supplies over long distances, to build things with our hands. Our bodies are designed for sustained physical activity. Commander Thex looked interested rather than intimidated. Combat ability? We practice combat for recreation, Chief Tanaka replied. We have dozens of martial arts, sports where we hit each other, and games that simulate warfare. We do this for fun, to challenge ourselves, to get better. The hologram shifted again, showing human sports. Delegates watched in shocked silence as humans threw themselves at each other in rugby, punched each other in boxing, and performed acrobatic feats in gymnastics that looked impossible for beings with no natural springs or flight capability. You do this. For entertainment? Krelvoth asked. We need challenges, Dr. Okonkwo said. If our environment is not challenging us, we create challenges. We climb mountains because they are there. We explore caves, dive into deep oceans, and jump out of aircraft for the thrill of it. We are a species that gets bored easily. High Archiver Sratha was studying everything with intense focus. The old record spoke of your pack bonding ability. They said humans bond with anything. That is true, Dr. Okonkwo said, and her smile became warmer. We form emotional attachments very easily. Let me introduce you to some of our crew. She made a gesture, and a small four-legged creature walked into the room. It had fur, a tail, and made a sound like a small engine running. This is Miko, our ship's cat, Dr. Okonkwo said. Cats are predators from Earth. They hunt small animals. But thousands of years ago, we domesticated them. Now they live with us and we care for them. The cat walked directly to Krelvoth and rubbed against his leg, making that strange rumbling sound. He looked down at it, bewildered. She likes you, Dr. Okonkwo said. That sound is called purring. It means she is content. We find it comforting. Another crew member entered with a larger four-legged animal, this one with a long snout and alert eyes. This is Sergeant, our therapy dog. Dogs were wolves once, pack hunters that could kill humans. We domesticated them 15,000 years ago. Now they are our companions, our helpers, our friends. The dog sat next to a human crew member who had a prosthetic leg. Sergeant helps me with my disability, the crew member explained. He can sense when I am about to have balance problems and steadies me. But more than that, he is my friend. We bond with dogs like they are family. You took predators and made them family? Commander Thex asked. His tone suggested he was not sure if this was brilliant or insane. We bond with anything, Captain Vasquez said. We have crew members who bond with plants, with robots, with the ship itself. We name our vehicles. We give personalities to our tools. We will pack bond with a rock if we carry it long enough. It is part of what makes us human. Krelvoth thought about the implications. A species that formed emotional bonds so easily would fight ferociously to protect those bonds. A species that befriended predators would be formidable in making alliances. A species that saw personality in objects would never abandon their equipment or their posts. How many systems did you say you control? He asked. 30 systems, 53 colonies, 52 billion individuals, Captain Vasquez replied. We have been building our civilization for 80 years since we achieved faster-than-light travel. We explored carefully, colonized responsibly, and prepared for this moment. And you waited to contact us because we wanted to be strong enough to be respected, but not so aggressive that we would be feared, the captain said. We watched you for 80 years. We learned your languages, your customs, your politics. We know who you are. And we decided we wanted to be part of your community, not conquerors of it. Commander Thex stepped forward, his massive frame attempting to intimidate. And if we refuse your request for membership? If we see you as threats? Captain Vasquez met his eyes without flinching. Her smile remained friendly, but there was steel underneath. Then we would be disappointed, but we would respect your decision. We would return to our space and continue building our civilization. Perhaps in another few generations you would reconsider. We are patient. We learned patience from evolution. We can wait as long as necessary. The commander stared at her for a long moment, then made a sound that might have been a laugh. You are either very brave or very foolish, Captain. We are human, she replied. We are usually both. Krelvoth watched the exchange and understood. The humans were not asking permission. They were informing the Council of a new reality. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was still debating humanity's application for membership when the Devourers arrived. They came without warning, dropping out of faster-than-light travel in the Castor system, one of the Council's most prosperous trade hubs. The defense fleet stationed there sent a single panicked message before communications went dark. By the time the Council realized what was happening, Castor was already under siege. Krelvoth stood in the command center on Nexus Prime, watching the tactical displays with growing horror. The Devourers were unlike anything the Council had faced before. They fought as a true hive mind, their ships moving in perfect coordination. No individual ship tried to survive. They sacrificed themselves without hesitation to advance the swarm's objectives. How many ships do they have? Commander Thex demanded. Sensor data suggests over 300 vessels in the initial wave, replied the tactical officer. And there are indications of more coming through. They are not just attacking, they are invading. They want the system. High Archiver Suratha had been searching through old records frantically. There are mentions of something like this in the most ancient texts. Warnings about creatures from beyond the galactic rim, beings that consume everything in their path. I thought they were myths. Apparently we need to stop dismissing myths, Krelvoth said grimly. What forces can we send? The 3rd Fleet is closest, they can be there in 2 days. The 5th and 7th Fleets can follow within a week. But Commander Thex's expression showed his doubt. We have never fought a true hive mind before. Our tactics rely on exploiting individual ship commanders making mistakes. If they move as one perfect organism, our advantages disappear. A communication request came through on the priority channel. Captain Vasquez appeared on the screen and her expression was serious. Ambassador Krelvoth, she said without preamble. We have been monitoring your communications. We apologize for the intrusion. We are aware of the attack on the Castor system. The human fleet is currently 4 days from Nexus Prime. We can be at Castor in 3 days if we push our engines. We are offering our assistance. You would fight for us? Krelvoth asked. You are not even council members yet. We are offering to fight with you, Captain Vasquez corrected. If we want to join your community, we need to prove we are worthy allies. Also, we have been analyzing the enemy transmissions. These Devourers are a threat to all life in the galaxy, including humanity. Better to stop them here than face them alone later. Commander Thex leaned into view. You have experience fighting hive minds? Not directly, Captain Vasquez admitted, but we have studied the concept extensively. We have strategies that might work. And, Captain, we are very good at warfare. Humans have been fighting wars for our entire history. We know how to adapt under pressure. The Council quickly voted. The decision was unanimous. They would accept human aid. They had no other choice. 3 days later, the combined human and Council fleets emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Castor system. What they found was worse than feared. The Devourers had taken 4 planets and were systematically stripping them of resources. Their ships filled the space around the planets like a swarm of insects, moving in patterns that made Krelvoth's mind hurt to watch. They have nearly 500 ships now, reported the tactical officer. They are building more using harvested materials. Admiral James Okafor commanded the human fleet from his flagship, the UES Unconquerable. He was an older human with gray hair and scars on his face that suggested extensive combat experience. His voice was calm and measured when he addressed the combined fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Okafor. Our strategy is simple. The Devourers fight as one mind, which gives them coordination but also creates a weakness. If we can disrupt their command and control, even temporarily they will be vulnerable. Human ships will focus on finding and destroying their command nodes. Council ships will engage the main swarm and draw their attention. This will be costly, but it is necessary. All ships proceed to attack positions. The battle began with the Council fleet making a frontal assault. Krelvoth, watching from a safe distance on a command ship, saw the Devourer swarm react instantly. Their ships moved like a living thing, surrounding and overwhelming individual Council vessels. 3 ships were destroyed in the first 2 minutes. Then the human fleet hit the swarm's flank at full speed. Their ships did not slow down or try to avoid collisions. They rammed straight through the enemy formations, their reinforced hulls smashing aside smaller Devourer craft. The humans were not just fighting. They were attacking with a ferocity that shocked even Commander Thex. "They fight like they are already dead," he said in amazement. "They accept damage that would make any rational commander retreat." A human destroyer lost its forward section to enemy fire but kept fighting, its rear engines pushing it forward to ram an enemy cruiser. The 2 ships exploded together in a ball of plasma. On another part of the battlefield, human marines were boarding enemy vessels, fighting hand-to-hand in the corridors. "They are insane," one of the Council tactical officers whispered. "No species fights like this." But it was working. The human tactics disrupted the Devourer formations. Their willingness to sacrifice individual ships created chaos in the hive mind's perfect coordination. When a human ship identified a probable command node, they would throw everything at it, even if it meant certain death. Admiral Okafor's flagship took heavy damage protecting a Council carrier. Its shields failed and armor began to melt under enemy fire. But instead of retreating, the Admiral ordered his ship forward, using it as a shield for the carrier, while human fighters launched from both vessels. Krelvoth watched in horror as the Unconquerable's hull began to break apart. "They are going to die." "All human ships, this is Okafor." The Admiral's voice came through clearly despite the damage. "We have located the primary command nexus. Transmitting coordinates now. All available ships converge and destroy. Do not stop for anything. Do not attempt rescue. Complete the mission." 20 human ships broke from their engagements and accelerated toward the coordinates. The Devourers realized the threat and tried to respond, but the rest of the human fleet threw themselves into blocking positions. It became a race. Could the humans destroy the command nexus before the Devourers stopped them? 15 human ships remained. Then 12. Then 8. The lead ship, a heavy cruiser named Defiant, was burning from a dozen wounds but still accelerating. Its captain, a woman whose name Krelvoth did not know, gave a simple order. "All weapons, full power. Ram speed. For Earth and the Alliance." The Defiant and 3 other ships hit the command nexus simultaneously, their combined impact and explosion destroying it completely. The effect on the Devourer fleet was immediate. Ships that had been moving in perfect coordination suddenly became confused, their movements uncoordinated. The hive mind was not destroyed, but it was disrupted, scattered into smaller groups that operated independently. "Now," Commander Thex roared, "all Council ships attack. Do not let them reorganize." The battle turned into a slaughter. Without their unified coordination, the Devourers could not match the combined tactics of the Council and human fleets. Within an hour, the enemy was in full retreat. Within 3 hours, the system was secure. The cost had been terrible. The humans lost 27 ships and over 15,000 crew. The Council lost 12 ships and 8,000 crew. But 70% of the human casualties had been deliberate sacrifices, ships and crews that had volunteered to draw enemy fire, to make desperate attacks, to hold positions that could not be held. In the aftermath, a single transmission came from one of the damaged human ships. It was audio only, from a crew member who had been captured by the Devourers and then rescued. The recording was shaky, showing the inside of a Devourer vessel before the rescue. The Hive Queen's voice was alien and terrible. "What are you? You should have retreated. You should have preserved yourselves. Why do you fight like you have already died?" The human prisoner's voice was steady. "Because we are the species that looked at our own extinction and said, 'Not today.' We are the species that hunted creatures 10 times our size. We are humans, and we protect our friends." Krelvoth played the recording 3 times before he fully understood. The humans had not fought recklessly. They had fought with purpose. Every sacrifice had meaning. Every death had advanced the mission. They were not careless with their lives. They simply valued the mission and their allies more than their own survival. Commander Thex approached Krelvoth on the command deck, his expression thoughtful. "I understand now why the old myth said never to make humans your enemy. But Ambassador, I think the myths missed something important. They also said that if you earn human friendship, they will die for you. I thought it was exaggeration. It was not. Krelvoth looked at the casualty reports. At the names of humans who had died defending people they had only just met, defending a council that had not even accepted their application for membership yet. No, he agreed. It was not exaggeration. It was a promise. And they kept it. 6 months after the Battle of Castor, the Grand Council Chamber of Nexus Prime was decorated for a ceremony unlike any in recorded history. Banners from 47 different species hung from the walls, and now a 48th was being added. The flag of Earth showed a blue and green world against a field of stars, simple but beautiful. Ambassador Krelvoth stood at his place, watching the proceedings with a mixture of satisfaction and wonder. So much had changed in such a short time. The myths had become reality, and reality had proven more complex and more remarkable than any story. High Archiver Saratha slithered to the center of the chamber, her ancient voice carrying to every corner. We gathered today to welcome a new member to the Galactic Council. A species that was myth, then mystery, and now is our proven ally. The Council has voted and the decision is unanimous. Humanity is granted full membership with all rights, privileges, and responsibilities that entails. The chamber filled with sounds of approval from dozens of different species. Only 6 months ago, many of these same beings had wanted to deny humanity even a hearing. But the Battle of Castor had changed everything. Captain Vasquez, now promoted to Ambassador Vasquez, stood to accept the honor. She wore a formal uniform that managed to look both military and diplomatic. Behind her stood Admiral Okafor, recovered from his injuries, and Dr. Okonkwo, who had been instrumental in the cultural integration that followed first contact. On behalf of humanity, I accept this honor with gratitude and humility, Vasquez said. Her voice was strong but not boastful. We came to you as strangers asking to be judged by our actions rather than your fears. You gave us that chance. Together we faced a terrible threat and emerged victorious. We hope this is just the beginning of a long and prosperous alliance. The ceremony continued with the traditional exchanges. Human representatives gave gifts of art, music, and technology. The council representatives responded with their own offerings. Krelvoth noted that the cultural exchange was genuine on both sides. The humans had studied council cultures so thoroughly that they gave gifts perfectly suited to each species' preferences. After the formal ceremony ended, Krelvoth found himself in a smaller reception room with Ambassador Vasquez and several other key figures. Commander Thex was there, and to everyone's surprise, he and Admiral Okafor had developed a strong professional friendship based on mutual respect. I must ask something that has bothered me, Krelvoth said to Vasquez. You said you watched us for 80 years before making contact. But the Battle of Castor, you arrived so quickly. You knew where to go, how to fight. How much did you really know before you revealed yourselves? Vasquez smiled, and there was a hint of apology in it. We knew about the Devourers before you did. Our deep space monitoring stations detected their approach 3 months before they attacked Castor. We were already moving our fleet into position. You knew they were coming and did not warn us? Commander Thex asked, but his tone was more curious than angry. If we had warned you, you would have asked how we knew, Admiral Okafor explained. We would have had to reveal our monitoring network, our military capabilities, our intelligence operations. It would have started our relationship with suspicion and fear. Instead, we waited, watched, and when the threat appeared, we were there to help. We let our actions speak for us. Krelvoth considered this. It was manipulative, certainly. But it was also strategic thinking on a level that impressed him. You gambled that we would accept your help when the crisis came. We gambled that you were wise enough to accept allies when you needed them, Vasquez corrected. And we were right. Yes, we manipulated the situation. But we did so in a way that benefited everyone. The Devourers are defeated, our peoples are allied, and the galaxy is safer. You think very long-term, High Archiver Saratha observed. She had joined the group quietly, as was her way. 80 years of preparation, decades of observation. You are a patient species when it serves your goals. We learned patience from evolution, Dr. Okonkwo said. Humans who could not wait for the right moment to strike, who could not plan seasons ahead, who could not think about future generations. Those humans did not survive to pass on their genes. We are the descendants of planners and dreamers. And warriors, Commander Thex added. Do not forget warriors. Your species fights like no other. We fight when we must, Admiral Okafor said seriously. But we prefer to build. Captain, show them the projections. Vasquez activated a holographic display showing planned joint projects. Human and council scientists working together on new technologies. Combined military exercises to prepare for future threats. Cultural exchange programs. Trade agreements. Joint colonies where multiple species would live and work together. This is what we want, Vasquez said. Not conquest. Not domination. Partnership. We are stronger together than separate. The Devourers proved that. Krelvoth looked at the projections and saw a future that seemed almost utopian. But he was a diplomat trained to look for the problems. There will be difficulties. Our species have very different cultures, different values. There will be conflicts. Of course, Vasquez agreed. But conflicts can be resolved through dialogue and compromise. We have studied your dispute resolution methods. We are prepared to adapt to council customs while also sharing our own perspectives. We are not expecting everything to be smooth. We are expecting to work through the rough parts together. A junior human officer approached and whispered something to Admiral Okafor. His expression became serious. Ambassador Krelvoth, we have just received reports from our deep space monitoring network. There are new signals being detected at the far edge of explored space. Different from the Devourers, but clearly artificial. Something else is out there. The room became quiet. Another threat? So soon after the last? But then Vasquez smiled. Good thing we are allies now. Whatever comes next, we will face it together. That is what allies do. Krelvoth felt something shift in his understanding. The humans had not just joined the council for protection or resources. They had joined because they understood something fundamental. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, and survival required cooperation. They had learned this lesson on their death world, where early humans banded together because alone they would die. Together. Krelvoth agreed, extending his hand in the human gesture of partnership. Vasquez clasped it firmly. Over the following weeks, the integration continued. Human colonies began accepting council species as immigrants. Council worlds opened to human traders and tourists. Military academies exchanged instructors. Scientists collaborated on problems that had stymied single-species research teams. And in his private moments, Krelvoth updated his personal journal with observations about humanity. He had started the journal the day the human fleet first arrived, intending to document first contact for historical purposes. Now he wrote his final entry on the subject. The myth said humans were impossible. They were right, but not in the way we expected. Humans are impossible to predict because they are both calculating strategists and passionate idealists. They are impossible to intimidate because they have faced extinction and refuse to surrender. They are impossible to abandon because once they call you friend, they will die before they let you fall. The galaxy believed humans were myth, dismissed them as legend, and ignored the warnings in ancient texts. We were fools, but we were fortunate fools. Because when humanity finally revealed itself, they chose friendship over conquest. I have learned that myths exist for a reason. They are warnings, yes, but also promises. The myths warned us that humans were dangerous. They were right. But they also promised that if we earned human loyalty, we would gain the most steadfast allies imaginable. That promise has proven true as well. The age of myths has ended. The age of humanity has begun. And I truly believe that the galaxy is better for it. Let whatever comes next try to threaten us. Let the darkness beyond the rim send its horrors. We have humans now. We have allies who look at impossible odds and say, not today. Thank the stars for that. Thank the stars for humanity. Krelvoth closed his journal and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, new threats were emerging. But also out there, human ships patrolled alongside council vessels. Human colonies thrived next to alien settlements. Human children learned council languages while alien children learned human customs. The myths had become reality, and reality was better than any story. The galaxy would never be the same, and Krelvoth could not imagine wanting it any other way. On Earth, in the archives of human history, a new chapter was being written. It was titled First Contact, and it began with a simple line that would be taught to every human child for generations to come. They believed we were myth, until we proved we were real. They feared we were enemies until we proved we were friends. They doubted we belonged until we proved we were necessary. And when the darkness came, we stood together, and the darkness learned to fear us. Humanity had joined the galactic community. The age of isolation was over. The age of alliance had begun, and across 1,000 worlds, in 1,000 different languages, people looked up at the stars and felt, for the first time in a long time, genuinely hopeful about the future.